what does sauna mean to Eric? I'm kind of scared to ask.
Yep. So contrast therapy is what I do, which is going from a hot sauna. We run our sauna at about 195 Fahrenheit, and then getting in a cold
For
tub.
anyone that doesn't know,
It's toasty.
195 it's toasty.
It's toasty.
This is dry sauna?
It is a traditional, dry sauna. We're putting water on the rocks.
Okay.
And then I have a cold plunge where I'm getting into that
Hold
for
on,
about
you're
3
still
minutes.
going too fast for me. I'm curious in this, so that means other people are curious. So I know very little of this, but I know there's some sort of metric where you take the temperature and add the humidity or something like that, and that's one of the ways they gauge sauna. Do you do
Sure.
that?
When you're adding water onto the rocks,
Right.
it's massively increasing the humidity, and you'll
Hurts.
feel it right when you pour
it
the
hurts.
water on the rocks.
I've only done this once. It
Oh
hurts.
yeah, it stings your skin, and you'll just feel that heat coming off of it. But that's actually the humidity. I don't know that it tremendously raises the heat in the sauna when you do that. It just raises the humidity, so you start sweating profusely.
Right. Do you have a goal humidity number you shoot for?
Ooh,
Just
I think
temperature?
around 20% is what we'll get it up to in there. Temperature is more of what I'm concerned with. We actually just had a Finnish woman in the sauna 2 nights ago.
The
and,
Finnish people know how to sauna.
They know
That's
how to sauna,
dangerous.
and she was putting water on the rocks every 5 minutes.
Did
she
she
was very
shame you?
confused. She didn't
okay.
shame me,
Okay,
but
good.
she told me a bit about their culture in Finland. So
Yeah.
she lives in an apartment building, and she said every person in the apartment building has their own sauna, and then they also have a community apartment sauna.
No way.
And I believe the stat is there is a sauna for every 2 people in Finland. So if there's 3 million
Really?
people in Finland, there's 1.5 million saunas.
That is
Isn't
crazy.
that crazy?
No, that's one of the unfortunate parts of sauna research is that whenever they research sauna, it's always the Finnish people, and no one can keep up with them. So people will quote sauna research and all that, but you really got to keep that in mind that these people grew up with this.
They
and
did.
So
It's a huge part of their culture.
Yeah.
And they don't do it for the physical benefits. They do it. That's where they have important conversations, discuss political matters, family time. So it's more of a relationship thing for them.
And I wanted to go back to that, and we got so much to talk about here because you said community before the
Huge.
podcast, and community is such a huge part of our world. And unfortunately, I find one of the things that's happened in this world right now is with Facebook and Instagram and all of that, people have this sense of a digital community, but a digital community will never feed the fire of our in-person community. And so I think we're unfortunately getting further and further from community, even though we're more connected than ever, we're more disconnected than ever. So you said that was important to you, a fitness community. And unfortunately, they've done, the studies are there. You can't say it's not. If your friends are obese, you are more likely to be obese. So getting that community of people that are healthy and maybe even breaking up with some friends if you feel like you want to be healthy and you're tired of doing these things. If your friends are going to the bar and you don't want to anymore, you need new friends, right? And in order to get out of that situation, because it's only a matter of time before you end up back. So I want to, hey, we're not done with your routine, but routine or community, are they integrated? There's a question.
Yeah, they're
And
so
how
integrated.
did you integrate them?
Yep. Yeah. I think community is the most overlooked form of wellness. Just having quality relationships with people. And, online is a pipeline for it. I meet a lot of people online, have the initial conversation there, and then I invite them over to come in sauna with me and let's have a conversation in person.
Let's sweat together.
Let's sweat together in a place where we can't have our phones out because they're going to overheat. And, the sauna has this magical way of making you vulnerable really quick. It's similar to exercise because your endorphins are racing because you're in this fight or flight, response mode.
Right.
So for me, I use sauna as a community building tool. That if someone messages me on social media and, expresses interest in meeting me, I say, come on over in sauna. I have 5 people coming over most nights at 5 p.m. I'm going to do it anyways. I'd rather do it with people and have a really good conversation. So I've done that for years now where I've just invited people over to sauna, and I've met thousands of people and had thousands of conversations in the sauna. And for me now, sauna, the importance of it is just as much community as it is the physical benefits of the heat.
Yeah, I love that. What's your time duration like in the sauna? Because I imagine you can't do an hour at 190.
No, yeah, an hour would be very tough. I'm usually in there about 15 to 20 minutes at that 190 temperature, and then I'm in my cold tub for about 3 minutes at 45 degrees, and I do 2 to 3 rounds. I used to be more meticulous with this, of like timing it and all of that. Now it's more based around the other people who are with me and just doing it based on feeling. And, I'm ultimately a feeling-based person. person. Like, of course, I've read the research on it, but if I feel good doing it and I don't feel like there's any consequences to doing it, then I'm going to continue doing it. And that's what sauna and cold exposure has been for me.
Yeah, and there's an element of pain and suffering that goes
Sure.
along with it. So feeling good, meaning feeling good afterwards and whatnot, or meaning like, oh, this feels good in the moment. I assume you're not masochistic.
Sauna feels pretty good in the moment for the first 10 minutes, and then it gets a bit uncomfortable. And the cold doesn't really ever feel good in the moment, but you feel great afterwards.
Right,
you just have this massive spike of dopamine from it.
Right. So now I think it's a perfect time to talk about, you did your Vibrant test recently.
Yeah.
And they had to double check your results because it was unusually good.
Yeah. Lead and heavy metals were almost non-existent. And I think it's because I sweat so much between sauna and, doing workouts every single day. So that was really cool to see.
That's actually good to hear, because in the sauna world, and I haven't looked at the research lately, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but saunas often promote how good they are at removing heavy metals. But unfortunately, what they've tested is not nearly as much as they lead on to believe when they're trying to sell you the saunas. I think they've only studied things like cadmium and lead, not as much as you would think. It makes sense that you would eliminate heavy metals with sweating. But that's good to hear that someone who is as religious as sauna is really low in those things. So how long have you been doing the sauna? Is this a new thing? Has this been since the 20s? What's
so I started doing it in my early 30s when I was competing in Kona, which is the Ironman World Championships. And it was infrared sauna back then. And I was doing it specifically for heat adaptation training for the hot and humid climate of Kona. But during that time period, that's when I recognized I just felt loose and limber afterwards, even after a big running or biking day. And my mood was elevated after doing it. And then when I moved to Colorado in 2017, that's when I was introduced to cold exposure and contrast therapy and, traditional saunas and very hot saunas and very cold bodies of water.
I'm kind of scared to ask, what does very hot sauna mean
220, 230 degrees, barrel saunas, and then jumping in streams in Colorado in the wintertime and, staying in the stream for most of the time. I'm only in the stream for 1 or 2 minutes, but I think the max I ever got up to was about 20 minutes in a frozen lake. And I wouldn't recommend that, but
because there's an element of like,
my
is this dangerous?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it took me forever to warm up after doing that.
Yeah. At some point you do cook a human. So 220 sounds too hot. And at some point you do turn frozen.
100%.
So,
yeah. I think with a lot of these
doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah. Wim Hof does it to the extreme. I think with a lot of these things, it's fun to like figure out what the ceiling is. Sometimes I put my head through the ceiling and then I'm like, all right, gotta come down a bit.